Hey everybody, it's Pastor Martin. I pray and trust that you're having a great night. I'm going to be here just a little while, and we're going to talk ministry tonight, and just wanted to welcome you in. I'm a little late tonight because I've been dealing with some things, and sometimes you have technical difficulties, but we are here, and we are talking ministry on tonight. Well, I want to plunge right into this as we look at this, and the question tonight is, how much is too much from the pulpit? You know, sometimes as we are dealing and looking at things today, we have a whole different type of thing that we're dealing with when it comes to the pulpit. And sometimes the things that are done or said from the pulpit, sometimes we have to ask ourselves, are those things are they appropriate for the pulpit or from the pulpit? We've been dealing with wisdom from the pulpit. And so tonight I want to ask you just here tonight, what do you think about it as we deal with how much is too much when it comes from the pulpit? You know, many times we talk about the pulpit being sacred and how sacred the pulpit is. You know, I remember when I was coming up, they would not allow the children to play in the pulpit because they said it was sacred. And you cannot run in the pulpit. You cannot get up in the pulpit and do things from the pulpit because they just wouldn't allow you to do it. And so when we think about that, when we look today, the children are not playing in the pulpit. Sometimes we've got others that are in the pulpit that should take the pulpit as something sacred. They are doing a lot of things in the pulpit today. We've heard of people using all type of language in the pulpit, of people doing various things. And you know, when you think about it, sometimes we've got to have, as ministers, enough to respect the pulpit itself. I've been talking about wisdom in the pulpit because there were a lot of things that I did as a young preacher, as a young evangelist. And when I was growing up, a lot of things that I heard other people say that I thought sounded good. And maybe in my young age and in youngness, if that's a word, I thought it was very appropriate to say. And then I found out later that maybe that wasn't the best thing to say at the time. And so we've got a lot that we've got to deal with. And so my question tonight, and you can make comments, I'm looking, is how much is too much when it comes to and from the pulpit? What do you think about it? What is your take on that? And we're not here to judge people whether they're right or whether they're wrong, but it is something that we should have conversation about because we are ministers, all of us, as we preach and we are ministering. Understand that when we do things from the pulpit or when we say things from the pulpit or when we act certain ways, it just doesn't hurt us, but it hurts others. It's almost like a doctor that does malpractice. It just doesn't hurt that particular doctor, but it hurts all doctors because someone will say, I'm not going to anybody else as a doctor because of what happened to her. And I don't know if that'll happen to me. And so when you think of malpractice in the medical world, sometimes we have malpractice from the pulpit, and it causes things to happen with others. It causes people not to respond to others. That's why I've never thought it was wisdom for any preacher to get in the pulpit or get on social media and down other people and other preachers. Because understand, when people look at preachers, they just don't look at whether it's Pastor Martin or whether it's somebody else. They look at everybody and they put us all in the same category. And sometimes that's their excuse for not being a part of church, not being a part of things. Why? Simply because sometimes from the pulpit and we have done too much. There's some things I believe God gives us liberty to do, but then there's something that wisdom say to us. I shouldn't say that. Maybe I should think before I speak. Maybe I should rephrase that. It's almost like being in a courtroom. In the courtroom, when the district attorney or when the defending attorney says to the judge, I object, either he sustains it or carries over. And if he does that, you'll hear them say, well, let me rephrase the question or let me say it a different way. Sometimes we've got to do things a different way. We've got to say things a different way. We've got to handle things a different way. And until we become accountable, until we hold each other accountable. Now, here's the issue that we have today. Sometimes those that use the pulpit and say various things from the pulpit, because they've got large ministries and because they've got large followings, sometimes they feel no one can tell me anything. You can't tell me anything. Your church is not as big as mine. You can't tell me anything. You don't have as many people as I have. Well, that may be true, but the fact is, whether they have as many people as you have or not, the fact is they can share some wisdom with you and share some things and hold us accountable. Now, I know these are subjects that we don't like to talk about. It's subjects that nobody like to deal with. And there's things that people would say, well, why would you even talk about it? Well, the mere fact that when you deal with it, it hurts not only sometimes the body, but it hurts the entire ministry. It hurts those that are in ministry, because when you go into places, whether it's the barbershop, whether you go among your unsaved loved ones, whatever it may be, you hear them saying, did you hear what that preacher said? Did you hear what they said from the pulpit? Did you hear what they did? They don't care nothing about whether it's whether you're right or whether you're clean or whether you're living whatever you're preaching. All they know is preachers. When they say preachers, they talking about all preachers. That's how they deal with them. And so we've got to start saying how much is too much. When does it go too far? When we say things, when we do things, when we act certain ways in the pulpit. How do we deal with that? Hey, hello, how y'all doing? I see you, Barrett. I see James. How do we deal with that? How do we deal with these things when it comes from the pulpit? Now, if it's a conversation outside or something, but when it's the pulpit, we're dealing with people that we never know who's there that's on the edge. We never know who's there that's trying to get a breakthrough. We never know who's there that may possibly just have to have, they need a word from the Lord. They need something. And so when we get up, we've got to be mindful that we're ministering, that some people that we're ministering to, this is the last stop they're going to make before they cross over into eternity. Some of them are facing situations. Should they stay living, or should they commit suicide? Some of them are battling with things in their spirit. They're fighting. And when they come to church, they actually don't come to hear us clap back at people that are upset with them. They don't come to hear us clap back at someone that made us upset. That's not what they came for. That's not what they came to hear. Now, you've always got a set in the congregation, mine, yours, everybody, that will jump up and say, that's right, tell them. They'll do that. But in the meantime, we've got to remember, that's not what we're here for, to clap back and to say, I'm going to tell them off. I'm going to get y'all told. We're not here to call people's name from the pulpit and to say ugly things. That's not what it's about. Because if that's what this is about, then a lot of us need to quit right now. Turn in your papers, go to doing something, become a comedian where you can do that and get back at people. There's some things we've got to be higher. I heard the late first, well, not late, but our former first lady, Michelle Obama, when she says, when they go low, we go high. I believe that applies to us. Sometimes it's not for us to do everything and to say everything and to go at people different ways. There's some text in the scripture, there's some text in the Bible that even though it may use a particular word that we can use, but we know sometimes that those words are used in a derogatory sense and manner when people are dealing with other people. And so sometimes we may have to, even though it's there, we may have to rephrase it in a certain way that it will not be offensive to everybody, because everyone can't take that. Everyone can't deal with it. And I know someone says, well, I don't care. But if meat offends my brother, I won't eat. Some things, they're offensive when you get ready to say it, when you get ready to do it. So some things you have to be mindful that maybe I should do that a different way. I never forget one day I was I was reading the scripture, and I had one of my missionaries reading the scripture, and this was a couple of years back, and she was reading the scripture, and when the scripture talked about Balaam and Balak, and so when they were dealing with it, it talked about the she Jenny, but in the Bible, of course, it did not call it a Jenny, did not call it. I believe it was, well, you know what it called it. But anyway, what happened was I was trying to get her to read it just like it said it. And she kept saying, using the modern term for it. And I was like, why does she keep doing that? That's not what the Bible said. But it wasn't that she didn't want to, she was being disobedient. But her conviction was not to read it like that in church or in public. Well, I found out that I didn't have a problem with it as I thought about it, because sometimes we've got to understand we've got a lot of people. Now, if you were using those particular words in the pulpit and your children and grandchildren were in the pulpit, in the church, and let's think about this, and they were there, and just say, for instance, you used the word, the A word, or you used whatever word it was, and you said, oh, it's in the Bible. True. But now, if your grandchildren, if your children were in the car after church and you heard the pastor, whoever used that word, and they said that particular word out loud, what would your response be? Be honest. What would your response be? Would you be like, oh, baby, don't worry about it, it's okay? You would be like, where you hear that from? And if they told you that's what the preacher said, that's what the pastor said, you would have an attitude for days, because you'd be like, well, baby, he said it, but you don't say that. Well, why can't they say it? We said it was all right for the preacher to say it from the pulpit, so why can't they say it? We would act a whole different way when it came down to that. And so I say to you that we must understand that if we say things from the pulpit and then our children pick them up and then they repeat them, no need of us getting upset about it. No need of us getting mad. No need of us trying to give them a whooping or correction. That's what we said from the pulpit. We got to be mindful what we say from the pulpit. I'm just of the, maybe I better not say that. It may offend somebody, but I'll say it anyway. And you know, if it offends you, you don't have to take it. I'm just of the mindset, maybe sometimes what we say from the pulpit, and if we use curse words or whatever, I'm of the mindset that maybe that's just what we do when we're not in the pulpit, because there's some things you just don't say. Even when you're dealing with body parts from the pulpit, there's some things, there are other terms and words that you can say that are appropriate, especially when you've got young people or children or small kids. Everyone does not have children's church. When you got small kids, there's certain things you say. There's certain words you may use, certain terminologies you may use that will still fit what you're trying to say without putting it in a way that if you heard them say it. Now, I've got grandchildren. So sometimes if the aunt is playing with them, she may say, you know, I'm gonna beat your butt. Now, my granddaughter is 6, and when she's talking to her brother, I'm gonna beat your butt, and we like, don't say that. Where you get that from? She said, Auntie said it. So we have to say to Auntie, don't say that around her no more, because that's not good. She's picking it up. These young people pick up stuff real quick. You wonder why some kids, when they go to school, and I've got some school teachers on here, we've got some young kids when they go to school, I see Sister Morris on here, when they go to school, you wonder where those small kids pick up that foul language. You thinking they didn't get that from TV. They heard an adult say that. They heard somebody that uses that language all the time, and they feel that's correct. They feel that's proper. What I'm saying to you as a pastor, as a preacher, as an evangelist, those of us that God has entrusted us, amen, in the pulpit and to minister to people, let's be mindful of what we say and what we do when we're in the pulpit. Let's ask ourselves this question. Do I have to say it that way? How much is too much? Now, I know there's some that may disagree with me, and you can do that. You have the right to your opinion. I never fight people's opinion. You can have the right to anything you want to say. That's your opinion. But I'm saying to you, I want you to understand that we've got to start checking ourselves, to ask ourselves, how much is too much from the pulpit? What should I say? I've got to be mindful whenever I mount the pulpit. What am I supposed to say? God, give me what to say. And I sometimes there are people that just like to say stuff so they can be controversial. They like controversy. And that's not always a good thing. It's not always a good thing. I'm going to be doing wisdom in the pulpit, but let me share this with you. Sometimes it's not even good. A snapback is not even worth your time. Some stuff we do is not even worth our time. And we got to ask ourselves, is the Lord pleased with what I just did? Is the Lord pleased with what I just said? Even when it comes to social media, is the Lord pleased when I get on social media and do certain things and say certain things? Is God really pleased with my actions? Is he really pleased with the stuff I'm saying? Because if he's not, then we've got to deal with that. And the main thing you want to be is you want to be able to be held accountable and also to check yourself. Sometimes we don't want to check ourselves, but sometimes we got to hold ourselves accountable. I've had to do it many times. I've been preaching sometimes and I get ready to say something and I think about it. I said, I better not say it that way, or I better not say that at all. It does not mean that I'm holding back the gospel. And I know I hear somebody saying, well, I'm going to tell it like it is. Because if I tell it, I'm going to straighten you out. Listen, all that sounds good on paper. But there's some things, I don't care what you say and how you feel, it's your opinion, but it is inappropriate for the pulpit. It's not to come out from that way. And we've got to be more mindful. We're ministering to people that are hurting, that are dying, people that need stuff. Let's stop fighting one another. Sometimes we don't even know if something is true that someone said. Did you actually find out if it's true? And if it is true, then the Bible tells you how to handle it. He didn't tell you to get on social media or whatever and straighten it out. He said, you go to your brother. You got your gift. You down at the altar. Get yourself up from the altar trying to be deep and spiritual and go talk to your brother and be reconciled with your brother. That's what the Bible said. It didn't tell you to get on social media and clap back. That ain't what he told you. Ooh, and I know I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, but Jesus clapped back. Well, you ain't Jesus. You're not Jesus. Are you comparing yourself to Jesus? Because you're not. I'm not Jesus. I'm Dennis Martin. You're whoever you are. And there's some things that are just inappropriate. We're causing things. Listen, when you know when you're controversial, when you're on always on social media and people always, you should strive to be the best you can be, minister to people, that you can minister to people whether in church or out of church, minister to people no matter where they are. And we should carry ourselves like that. And especially in the pulpit. The pulpit is not for everything. Everything is not to be preached. Everything is not to be said. Everything is not to be done. And I know we got a lot of young people, they just think it's fine, ain't nothing wrong with it. Some things you won't understand until you get a little older. Some things you won't understand until you get a little more maturity on you. Some things you won't understand, I usually shave this, but until you start getting a little bit of this here, that gray hair, they say it's wisdom. I don't know if that's true, but some things you won't understand until you start getting those things. And so I want to say to you, tonight, and I'm going to be done. I want to tell you, ask ourselves, how much is too much from the pulpit? Am I doing the right thing? Am I saying the right thing? Should I say that? Should I not say it? Will it hurt somebody? Will it harm somebody? Will it even benefit what I'm trying to do? Is it going to be beneficial? This is the last thing I'm going to say. I've noticed, and I've noticed this for years, our members and those that attend our church basically carry our spirit. If we've got that as leaders, if we've got that spirit, we want to clap back at everybody, if we've got that spirit, we always want to fight, tell people off, or whatever, usually members pick up the spirit of their leader. And usually they start acting like them. And sometimes, if, I should be able to have a conversation with you about something that I disagree with you about, or something that I may not like that you said. Don't mean we got to fight. We can agree to disagree. Every one of us has an opinion. If you said something and I don't agree with it, I should be able to say, listen, I don't agree with what you said. You may think it's fine. I may say, I don't see that. I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think it's right. That don't make us enemies. It don't mean we have to fight. Don't mean we have to get on social media and fight. Why? Everyone has an opinion. There are people that don't agree with everything I say. Even some of my members don't agree with everything I say. Don't make us enemies. We don't have to fight about it. My kids don't agree with everything I say, and they're my children. They don't agree with everything I say. They be like, Dad, I don't agree with that. We don't have no fist fight over it. I don't get on social media and blast them like, my son ain't no good. No, I don't do that. It's unnecessary. So what are you saying? I'm saying to us, let's do a better job when it comes to ministry. Let's hold our brothers and sisters accountable. Let's hold ourselves accountable. And just know some things are actually too much. I know we don't want to talk about it. Some things is just too much. Some things go too far. All right. The Lord bless you tonight. Thank you so much for joining me on this Let's Talk Ministry. Listen, I'm getting ready to, we're going to push out a podcast tonight or later today. Every Tuesday, I need you to join me for, every Tuesday, I need you to join me. I do a post on Wisdom in the Pulpit every Tuesday on Facebook, and it's video. It's not live, but in the month of November, I am going to go live with Wisdom in the Pulpit once a week, or maybe every day it'll be live, but it's going to be on YouTube. I'm creating that right now. I'll get more information to you about that, because I would love for you to be a part of that and love for you to be a part of what we're going to be doing when it comes to that area. And so again, thank you so much for joining me tonight. And those of you, go look at Wisdom in the Pulpit. Not only look at it, share it with someone. If you're on Instagram, go to Instagram TV, Dennis Martin Instagram TV, and there you'll find Wisdom in the Pulpit. On YouTube, you'll find Wisdom in the Pulpit, and you can also find it on Facebook. You can find it, and so I want you to be a part of that, and I know it's going to bless you. That's something the Lord gave me, and I'm grateful that after 40-some years, I've made a lot of mistakes, y'all, in the pulpit. I've made a lot of mistakes and things that I've done and said over the years, but now I believe. I was listening at Mr. Tyler Perry today. They did an interview to him, and he said, I believe that it's my job to hold the door open for those that are coming behind me. And that thing struck me. I believe that's what we ought to do. Hold the door open, but while we're holding the door open, tell them how to go in the door. Instruct them what they need to do, what they don't need to do, so they can be a blessing. The Lord bless you tonight, and the Lord keep you. Please do me a favor. If you've enjoyed this tonight, please share it with someone. Share it with your followers. Make sure you share it, because I believe it's going to bless and help somebody. The Lord bless you, and the Lord keep you is my prayer. Thank you again for joining me tonight. I'm grateful to have you with me.